And I want to make sure that you call the question on the appropriateness of the consensus questions.
Oh, yeah, I see.
We can do that.
Before, at some point, at least before the meeting ends.
Well, I'd like to do it after your discussion.
Okay.
I think that would help everybody if we took care of the action right after your report.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so
Anel,
oh, excuse me.
no,
Anel, thank you for all your hard work yesterday. I appreciate it.
It wasn't very hard at all.
Well, I appreciate it.
Me too.
You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, and this is Teresa Klein. Teresa, I'm Liz Riggle. I'm the secretary. Are you a member or board member? What our guest?
I'm a member, and I was my name at least is on the study, even though Sally did so much of the work. So
okay. So you're
he
part
is
of
a board
the
of
water
Sally.
study.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Teresa's here.
Mm-hmm.
Sally, are you going to read through each question and then have everybody answer, or how do you want to set it up? Because it's 4 pages of questions.
Well, I just don't think I don't think you have a board meeting long enough to go through each of the questions. The questions have been, I think we've sent 3 transmissions of the questions to the board so far. So they've had them all together a month. So I figured that if there were some questions or some additions, or if people wanted to talk about them, we'd take that input. And then if there are changes that need to be made to them, or adjustments or tweaks, we can make a note of that. And then I can get back with those people to confirm that those changes have been made. But the purpose of this drill today is to more or less pass on the appropriateness of that package of questions, of the consensus questions that we sent out. Does that make sense?
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how to record all of this in the minutes without having to rewrite 4 pages.
Would you like me to help you? I didn't send you anything in advance, Liz, because I really wasn't sure how this was going to shake out until I saw the agenda. Could I do a summary for you afterwards?
Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I forgot to send out asking everybody to do summaries. I'm sorry. Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you. I need to do that. I'll write myself
But I really
a
won't
note.
be able to do that summary until after the board meeting.
Oh, that's fine and all, because I'll send out I'll send out a notice to everybody. I usually try to do it on Tuesday and I forgot. I have no excuse other than I forgot. So I'll send out a summary. I'll send out a request for a summary for everyone.
We'll make it work.
So thank you. Yes, everybody's been very kind. Thank you. Let's see, and Catherine's here. Hi, Catherine. It's Liz Riggle. Go ahead.
Linda Snyder's in.
Okay. Okay, and I've got James Klein. Okay, Linda's here. Hi, Sylvia. James Klein, I'm Liz Riggle, and I guess he's muted. Hi, James. James, are you a guest, a speaker, a board member, a member?
I'm not a speaker, I guess, or board member. I'm a member of the original committee that studied the lead issue in the water.
Okay.
I think he's a regular member, Liz.
Yes.
He is a member? Okay.
For the Water Study Committee.
Okay, thank you. As is Teresa Klein.
They go together.
Like Lad and Water.
They both teach at Del Mar, Liz.
Okay, Sandra's here.
It's not the same camera.
I think I've got everybody so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We'll start in 2 minutes.
7,
Liz.
8, 9. I'm missing someone. Who am I missing? Sandra's here.
Are you counting yourself? And
Who am I
Peggy Duran just
missing?
came on.
Okay, I see Peggy. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, I have everybody. Who's number, who's just came in? Julie. Okay, Julie's here. Got it.
Is Paula here yet? No
I
Paula
don't-
yet?
Not yet.
Raul?
Nope.
Not yet? Okay.
If you'll, oh, you can't. You're on your, are you on your computer?
I'm on Debbie's computer.
Okay, you can, if you
You
put
can
it
see
on
it.
speaker view, up in the top right-hand corner, move your cursor up, and gallery view actually is what you want it to be on, and then you'll see everybody.
Well, I see 6 people, so that's good. That's
Okay.
a start. And when Debbie comes back, I'll let her touch her computer since I don't want to miss anything up here.
Are they across
Alright, I
the top of the
They're
screen,
across
or
the top.
Okay, I see
okay, then
Paula's
you're on speaker view.
Paula,
So go up to where it says speaker
Julie.
view.
Debbie knows what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Every day's a learning session for me. Oh, you are a handsome group. I'm so glad to see everyone at once. This is terrific.
12, 13,
And
14.
there's Paula too. Excellent. And Ruth is on. Good.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Great. Well, let's
No,
get
we have
started. It's 4
14.
o'clock.
1,
So thank you for being here. And Liz has gotten our
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Sylvia.
13.
You have
13. I'm missing someone. May I call out who I have and then we can go
Shirley.
from there? Is that okay, Ann?
Shirley.
Okay, I have Ann Stewart, me, Anel, Julie Rogers, Paula, Catherine, Sylvia, Sally, Sandra, Chris. No, I don't have Chris, I'm sorry. Linda, Teresa, James, and who am I missing?
Did you
Ruth.
get Ruth?
I've got Ruth. Okay,
With Paul.
now I've got everybody, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. And do we have any visitors who've signed in? No.
Not besides
Not
the water
yet.
study group.
Yeah.
Okay, other than our study group. All right, then we really will get started. Thank you for being here. Thanks for getting the roles straight. This is very important. We keep track of all these things. Let's move right to our secretary with the minutes.
Okay, the minutes for November 5th, 2020 were sent to all of y'all. I received corrections and I have made all of those. Is there anything else I need to add or change? Or should we accept them as written?
Anyone?
Come on, folks.
I'll make a motion that we accept them as written.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is Julie Rogers. I'll second that motion.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Any objections? Last call for additions, corrections. Okay, terrific. Incentives
Okay, and
gathered.
Debbie's here. Okay. not
It's
Debbie. Hi,
Santa. No, it's Debbie.
Debbie. Yeah, Debbie came in. So we have 15.
Terrific.
or 15
All right,
of
let's
them.
move on to our treasurer.
I have nothing new to report. It was a very slow month. If you got a financial report today and have it last night and have not looked at your email today, I sent a revised version of it this morning. I had Ann Miller made a donation in the name of Joyce Dorman, the woman that we had at the 99th anniversary celebration at Del Mar. She passed away, and Ann Miller made a donation in her name, and I mistakenly put it in membership. So if you would, find the one that you got this morning, and that is the proper version to keep. And that is all I have.
Are there any questions for the treasurer?
Actually, there is one thing. We did make a substantial payment that is not on here of $1,350 to Corpus Christi caller times. We've made it. It just is not cleared as of this statement. So
Can we tell everyone what that was for, Anel?
I'm sorry, that was for the voter guides, for printing the voter guides for us that we distributed.
Okay, thank you again. All right, moving on to our vice presidents. I'm going to change the order just a little bit. We have some schedule conflicts and so forth, and we'll welcome Ron into the meeting. We're so glad to see you. All right, so instead of Sandra being number one on the vice president's agenda, we're moving Julie up, and then we get our water report as part of Julie's action. So Julie, you're on.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to start with just December program, remind everyone that we do have it scheduled with Stephanie Swanson, the redistricting and census chair from the State League. She's confirmed. She's on for December 17th, and she is a part of the Fair Maps virtual public hearings that are coming up. And I was proud to let her know that our social media has been letting people know. So thank you, Debbie. That's good. And tomorrow, December 4th, there's a workshop to prep testimony on that. And you can go to their website, or I've been using Facebook. And like I said, Debbie's got it out there, and we have people registered, and that's really, really good. Everyone's invited. And then December 10th at 6 p.m. is the virtual public hearing on South Texas. And so you can sign up for either of those, and please participate if you can. And because we already have people signed up, what Stephanie and I talked about is not a pure replication of that program, but to kind of, take it a little bit further and then move us to action, and to make sure to have a Q&A part, because that last update from Christine Bryant was fantastic. And then the questions were great too. So congratulations to all our members. What else? So she's going to include a call to action. And then the other person I connected with has to do with legislation and the league and water. And that's Cindy Jackson. Some of you all might know who she is. She's the water resources chair for the league. And so they are also working on water legislation for the session. And she has a blog that you can follow on that is Texas Water Resources. And so I'll put the address out in the chat later, unless Debbie has it right on hand. Anyway, something good happened when I touched base with her today, and that is a bill's already been filed by Representative Nicole Collier. It's HB 303, and it's a bill that is asking to require lead testing in public school drinking water. So that's really, really good, especially with the work and that we're doing, and all the great work the committee's done on lead in public drinking water. So to take us to where we're at with that, and note that that's been filed, on moving the lead and drinking water study through consensus to action. President Ann approved the committee's facts and issues, and you all have copies of that. The committee's completed a PowerPoint for virtual workshops to use for outreach and education called Blue Bubbles, and they've also sent that to you. And they've also been doing dress rehearsals to offer the dress rehearsals to the board members before we go public, so that everybody can have input and see what they've done. Now we're on to the consensus questions, and the consensus questions are an important part of the process. They lead us to a lead and drinking water position, which we can then use for advocacy. And we really will have to do that if you're interested in advocating on House Bill 303. The State League has no position on lead and drinking water, and there's something else to think about with that. If we develop a position, we could submit it to the state for possible adoption, and that's something we can discuss later. On the consensus questions, the study chair has sent the consensus questions to the board for review. And so I'd like to know, is there any discussion on the questions, especially since we have the study committee here? So I'd like to open those consensus questions to discussion.
Please,
I have just,
Chris has a question.
I've done other consensus with the league over the last 10 years. There seems to be an awful lot of issues here to address. And I guess my concern is once the consensus meeting is called, hopefully in person, we'll need to be very careful. There's so much data here and it'll all need to be preceded with some comments. So I see a pretty long meeting on that. The most I ever went to, most time consuming I ever went to was on the immigration study several years ago. And that lasted about 2 hours in an in-person setting at a membership meeting. So I just want us to be cautious that we don't have too much here. They're all wonderful, but it looks like a heavy duty could be a 3-hour, especially with each section preceded by some comments by the committee. So I just want us to be aware that this is, it's pretty heavy, not in content, that's good, but in the amount of stuff to cover.
Okay. Duly noted. I think that's important too, to hear input like that. So a lot of us haven't been through the consensus process. And so as vice president of program, I'm hoping that we're all going to learn a lot on how to do the consensus process, and we'll be able to have even more. So thank you, Chris. Any response from the committee on Chris's input?
Where's Sally?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you have something you would like to respond? Anything
No,
thoughts you'd
no.
like to respond with at this point? No.
This is Sandra, and I agree with Chris. I too have worked on state positions where we did the consensus process, and the questions were usually not more than 8 actual questions, which we have a really good start here on the first page of the yes/no questions. I think those would be good to stay with instead of, and the true false and all that. That's more of an educational set than consensus.
When we consulted with Janet Imhoff with the State League, and we studied the consensus documents and the consensus questions from Collin County, we came to understand that you're quite right, Sandra. The consensus questions are part of the educational process. And we can use those questions, even though they're rather lengthy, we can use those in some of the workshops that we're going to put on. And there's nothing about the consensus questions, as I understand it, that's cast in stone with regard to the number of them or whether or not they can be tweaked as time goes on. We have quite a long time between now and the spring when we have that final big membership meeting that you were talking about, the one that might possibly take 2 or 3 hours. It might be that by the time we get through with our workshops, that we won't have to have a meeting that lasts quite that long, depending on how much outreach we can do between now and then. But that's just my observation at this point. And I do agree with you that that we've got 4 pages of consensus questions, and the true false go really quick because they're very simple, and that's really kind of part of the fun part of the educational process that we finally reached. But in comparing what we came up with what I saw from Collin County, and they have a rich history of local studies, what we came up with did not seem to be beyond the pale or out of the ordinary. It seemed like it was in keeping with the subject matter and perhaps the parameters and length that you might expect for consensus questions, but they can always be tweaked.
I see Catherine talking, but I don't hear anything. Anybody?
This is Liz Riggle.
Can somebody
Oh,
unmute
go
her?
This is Liz Riggle. Is there any way that, and I like the idea that Chris came up with, or that about that that we divide into two or three sections where you do the true false one as one area, and then the other areas are separated out, you know, with the affordable and easy steps to guard against lead exposure and proposal to the city for evaluation of taps, water taps. Is there any way that can be split out so it could be basically 2 or 3 or 4 informational settings? Am I on the right track or not? I don't know.
Well, ordinarily the consensus questions are presented as a package.
Oh, okay.
And if we conduct a workshop and we're limited to 40 minutes for the programs that are available to the committee, and it might be that we sense that we don't have time in a workshop for all those questions. And if we don't, you know, some of them we can cover and some of them we don't. We might have to take a rain check on finishing up the package as time goes by. But it's going to be a learning experience for us too. And fortunately, we've got enough people on the committee and we've got enough enthusiasm, and you know, our rehearsals are underway now. So, and we're tweaking a lot of things as we go along. Great input. Thank you all so much.
Okay.
So here comes Catherine. I think Catherine had something to say.
Catherine needs to unmute.
And someone, where are our technology gurus? Can you help her with this? She's undoing her earplugs, so she's not hearing any of us, I guess. Anel, can you unmute her? And I guess if we
Catherine's
can.
unmuted.
Oh. Catherine?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We could
sorry.
not hear you a while ago.
Yeah, my earbuds weren't, I've misplaced my earbuds that do have the voice, and so I needed, I had to unplug. No, I was just, some of the same observations about the true false and the other questions and the purpose of those. And they, you know, not having gone through one of these programs before, it's, you know, I thought we were going to, as Chris and as Sandra observed, that we would have the questions, you know, like you have on the first page. And I understand, you know, you're telling it being educational, but this would sort of seem like the thing, right, that you would include in that planning for your presentations, but not necessarily in the consensus questions that we present to the membership as a whole. I mean, it seems like it's a checklist, bing, 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 for the consensus questions that we present. So that's just my 2 bits worth.
Okay, anything else, Sally? Julie, anything more?
Yes, I was just unmuting and I was taking some notes. I see Linda's hand up.
Well, I just had a kind of a question for the board before we jump off of this. And I'm not clear if we're going to be able to actually vote on anything or discuss anything today or not, but I'm wondering if everyone has had a chance, or most people have had a chance, to at least look at the 4 pages that Sally's mentioning, and even on the first page, the first page and a half of the 6 main, the first ones. I was just wondering if anyone has a specific objection or concern about even the first 6 on the front page and the top of the second page. If anyone's had it, if we can go into without, a lengthy discussion, is there anything concerning or can we consider that? I don't know how much of a discussion we have to have, and I'm not sure if there's anything that anyone disagrees with. And if there's not, then I don't know if that would speed up the process or not. That's where I'm coming from.
All right. We have Peggy Duran has her hand up here. Go ahead, Peggy.
I was wondering, since we're asking the city and the county and public health districts, basically what we seem to be heading towards is getting some sort of standard. And as it stands now, is there an EPA standard that applies to our water system for lead? I mean, is there like a 5 milligram per billion part? Is there something already there that they need to be doing?
There is, but it's not enough.
There is, okay, so there is a standard.
There is, Peggy, but it is not health-based. It is utility infrastructure-based.
Right.
And that's the problem with it.
Okay.
Neither our system nor any system in Texas has a health-based lead water standard. And Ron might want to further comment on that.
So basically, there, as Sally was mentioning, there is no health-based standard. And that is one of the major issues that we need to address, is that all the standard right now is 15 parts per billion, which means a utility has to meet this 15 part per billion. It's a complicated thing, but the key is it's not health-based. The closest you get is the FDA health-based allowable level in bottled water. That's 5 parts per billion. That's health-based because there's a whole lot of toxicology behind that number. And that's the closest you can get to a good health-based number, is 5 parts per billion.
So that's kind of a big goal here, is to move us towards the 5 parts per billion, right? I mean, because I like to see things as our overall objective. Where are we trying to get to with this? It's establishing the health standard, basically, then, right?
Right.
Okay.
And that would be voluntary. That would be voluntary on the part of the city of Corpus Christi at this point in time. And it would take some education to get there.
So because I know Jim and Teresa, and I mean, there was the study's been going on for a long time. And before the city was involved, just to find out what we were doing, right, as I recall. And they were always kind of hiding things, though, and didn't seem real forthcoming. Has the city been a little bit, are they on board at this point, or have we ever really approached them?
This is Julie. We've had a change in city leadership since the study began. And because of that, I have reached out to the Water Utilities Department, and they are going to present to us on February the 18th. Because, we are making decisions about our advocacy, and we need to hear from them and be able to ask them questions. And so, yes, that's how we've reached out to them. Now, as far, I'll address the consensus questions in a moment, but Catherine has her hand up. That's the hand I see up right now.
Right. I just wanted, that was one of the things I've been wondering about. This seems that, what is our objective here? Are we looking at approaching this locally first and then moving up the hierarchy? Are we going local and then we have our eyes set on federal, national? Because, are we, in other words, are we going after EPA? Are we going after the state, PCEQ and all of those agencies to change their policies and to change their guidelines? And so you know, where do you see this going and what's the trajectory? And
On a position, we wouldn't be able to do any of those actions unless we reach a position which lends us to be able to advocate with those entities.
but is
So
that, what I'm
that's
asking,
why, excuse me?
is that your long-term goal? Is that you want to take this all the way up to the federal level? Is that the goal of this, or is this?
I have never heard that goal discussed, and any goals that we've had that since I've been involved are clear that we want to advocate locally and at state is what I've heard. And so that's why every month I bring to you all an update on where we're at with the study so that we could start advocacy. But we can't advocate on anything until we all agree on what we're going to advocate for.
Julie,
Can we go to Sally, please?
Catherine, I think that you're headed in the right direction, because what I think you're thinking about is our final position statement. And that final position statement is going to be crafted by you and the rest of the board. The consensus questions are not the position. The consensus questions are just to stir up interest and get people interested and give them the right facts. And then in the end, once we're through with our consensus questions and our efforts, we come back to the board, and you will craft in the end the final position statement that has come out of this study. So your position statement might urge that we maybe are more aggressive, or that we're diligent in staying in touch with the League of Women Voters to have them pursue of Texas to have them pursue this. Or your position might be silent on that effort. But it will be up to the board at the end of the consensus process to craft that position statement. And that, as I understand it from the materials that we've been sent, that the only part of this array of our facts and issues and our consensus questions and our blue bubbles and our PowerPoints, the only thing that can't be tweaked and can't be changed between now and the spring will be your position statement. Once that is adopted, then it's more or less cast in stone unless there's further board action.
Thank you. Jim, I'd like to come to you. You had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of defer to Ron on this as well, I think. But it's been a while since I studied all this. But there's a guy named Mark Edwards. I think his name Mark Edwards out of Virginia Tech University. He's the one who went into Flint, Michigan. He was sent into Flint, Michigan because he actually helped to clean up the water in Washington, D.C. before that. And he's kind of viewed, at least at the time, as kind of the guru for this. He argued that the acceptable health standard for lead in water is actually 0.
All right. Anything else there?
Ron,
Okay.
The-
Judy. Oh, go ahead, Catherine. No. Who's speaking here?
It's Sandra, and I just wanted to add that the American Academy of Pediatrics also agrees that the standard should be 0.
So as I understand it, we're going in that direction, but we have quite a ways to go before we get to the end goal. We
That's right.
are having step-by-step bits of progress. We're going for what we can do at this point in time. And it seems we have many folks involved in our water who would not go the full gamut. Judy, did you have your hand up? No, Judy. Okay.
Ron had
Anyone
his
else?
hand up.
What,
Ron has had his
Judy?
hand up a long time.
I'm sorry. I'm
Ron,
missing. Okay, Linda.
Ron has his hand up.
go ahead and let Ron talk first.
Okay, Ron.
Thank you. We've been, as you agree, we've been looking at this since 2016, and we started with a very key element, which is education. And yes, there is no safe level of lead in drinking water. That is a known. 2, the vast majority of the water samples collected in the United States have concentrations less than 5 parts per billion of lead, and it's coming mainly from the mains or from the internal house in the faucets and the lines. So we're not really asking the water utilities to do much of anything. Third, EPA has this 3T program for schools and daycare centers, and they have established a 5 parts per billion level to start investigating why. The point we need to remember is we have a select group of people, an at-risk group of people, and that is what? Infants, children, and women who are pregnant and nursing. And those are the ones we really need to focus on to get them the information to reduce their lead level. The system is doing okay, but the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Lead and Copper Rule looks at systems to maintain an overall system. But by knowing zip codes and looking at these risk groups, we can really refine where we put our efforts and how we minimize the risk to that risk group. By education, that is going to be the most important thing we could do. And we can advocate for educating those at-risk groups. The water utility won't have any problem. The health department won't have any problem. We'll know what's happening in the schools and the daycare centers. And if we can get the OB doctors and the pediatricians involved, we really can have a major impact on the amount of lead going into children and into nursing and pregnant women. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sally, let's come back to you.
I didn't have my hand up.
No, but I thought we need to bring this part of our discussion to a close or take action or see what your next steps are. Did you think I was cutting you off too fast?
Well, I think Julie was conducting it with regard to, or was it Linda Snyder had brought up the point, what do we do about the consensus questions? Do we more or less approve them as an array? As I said, the consensus questions don't have to all be presented at one time. I think that by the time our big omnibus membership meeting happens in the spring, we shall have either covered enough of these questions in workshops that people are familiar enough with them that we can go through them pretty fast. Or if it looks like the springtime comes and we don't want to go 3 hours, then we can cut back on those consensus questions. But I think that we've got good questions. We know that true false is permissible with the state league. We consulted with them about the true false, and the true false can go really, really fast. That's a good thing about them for education. So I think that at this point in time, in order to go forward with your business, that it would be possible to call the question on the array with regard to the appropriateness of the questions that we, that would be the next step with regard to the board meeting today. Am I correct?
All right, Julie? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's correct. That was a great discussion and a much necessary one. What we would need to do from now till March is keep having discussions. I don't think they'll always be this extensive, but it's very important that we all know what's going on. And in the end, it's up to the board, to us, to make the decisions, but based on, you know, as we all know, what the membership wants. And so it does appear that the questions are large. I agree, there's quite a bit of them, but I think we've got a sense that they can be whittled down. But I want to make sure too that we have a sense that they are to be used for outreach and education and advocacy. So every time somebody learns something about those questions, we have to learn how to talk about the water issue once we come to a position. So I think if we keep going down the path we're on now, we're going to have a great meeting in March, which is what it's scheduled for. But I would recommend today that we go ahead and approve all the consensus questions, knowing that they can be whittled down and that they will be used for education and outreach, and specifically for these blue bubble workshops, which is probably, when you get a chance to look at that, I know everyone's been very busy, but look at that and it has the most concise, whittled down information.
Okay.
And I think the next time we meet, we'll have a better understanding of where we're headed. But we
So
need
your
those
motion
consensus
is,
questions.
briefly, your motion is what?
To approve the consensus questions.
It's been
So-
moved. Is there a second? Is
I'll
there a
second.
second? I'm sorry. Who is it?
Annelle?
Who did the second, please? It's Liz
Any
Rickle.
board member to second this?
I will second. This is Annelle.
Okay, Anil is
Okay.
seconding.
All right, and who made the motion? Was that you, Sally?
Julie.
Julie,
Julie. Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, who did the second? I'm sorry.
Anil.
no,
Adele. Okay. Okay, thank
All
you.
right, so it's been moved and seconded that we move forward with this approval of the consensus questions. Is that right? Okay,
Yes, yes.
those in favor smile largely. Those opposed, raise your hand. Approved unanimously to go forward with this. Now, do you have any other questions before we move to the next vice president? Okay, moving along then. Paula, you're on. Oh, I'm sorry, Sandra. We'll let you breathe a little longer, Paula. Sandra, our acting vice president for memberships. Sandra, we can't hear you.
I know, I unmuted. Okay.
Do you want
well,
to just pass today? No,
Sorry?
no, you don't want to just be passed over today, do you?
But it's a brief report. My phone always rings at the wrong time. It's a brief report in that our membership has stayed steady at 129, and we lost Joyce German, but we gained Emily Ayers, and then the other two that renewed were already on the membership rolls. That was Mary Jane and Judy Telch. So we're steady at 129, and we'll eliminate all yes and no.
Did you get Roland Barrero?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I did. I just haven't. Well, you haven't. It wasn't here, so but I've got him.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Are there any questions for Sandra about membership? Okay, Sandra, thank you so much for stepping in and substituting for us.
Well, I do have some.
Pardon? You have some more?
I wanted to say I had a discussion with Peggy Duran earlier this month, and Peggy may want to say something about that from the nomination committee, but I did say I'd continue until the annual meeting and then rely upon the nominations committee to come up with a candidate that I can work with and train.
All right, let's move right to Peggy Duran, our nominating committee chair, and she will have a report of some kind for us today. Thank you for that offer, Sandra. Go ahead, Peggy.
Well, our committee has been looking at candidates to work with to pick up Dr. Garza's role, since Sandra's been handling it, going into her third year now. And it gives us the opportunity to talk to and get to know our membership when we do ask them. We talked with Colleen Johnson, a new member, and she is on the Coastal Bend and Bays and has another job besides that, and 3 children in elementary, middle, and high school. So she's very occupied right now.
Yes.
Sue Winston said that she might be able to pick this up, Sandra. But first she's going to be checking on some medical conditions first, and will let us know next week if, but she is good with the Excel and would, would be able to kind of work with you and possibly be ready then to pick that up in May.
Is that Sue Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for your report. We don't have anyone to bring forward to ask for approval of the board, so we will accept Sandra's kind generosity, and you can see what you can work out with Sue or such, and then let us know at the next meeting so we can vote that approval by the board. Is that working?
Yes.
Will that work for you, Sandra?
Yes, it will. Sue and I have already demonstrated a great ability to work together, so I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, let's move right on to Paula.
And I don't really have anything new to report, so. So unless anybody else wants to jump in.
We probably have a question about our December elections. We have some runoffs. Do you want to say anything about that?
Debbie is taking good care of that, getting the information out to the electorate. So nothing new to really report here. We're not doing any candidate forums or anything for that. So.
Okay. Now, thank you so much, everybody, and we'll move on to the other officers. You have your agenda before you. Who is next? Some of you didn't bring your agendas with you. It's all right.
Victoria.
Victoria, and I don't see her here. Does anybody,
No.
am I missing her?
She's not here.
She's not here. Did you send remarks with anybody? No. So that brings us to you, the lady in, pardon?
Catherine should be next according to the list of the
All
agenda.
Can I?
Terrific.
Before, I know Catherine has a PowerPoint that you want to present. Debbie Noble needs to leave at 5.
So do I.
So we would like Ms. Noble to go next before Catherine.
Is that all right?
Does that work? Catherine, is that good?
Sure. I just have a single slide, not a presentation, but Debbie, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go, Debbie.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I do have another engagement that I have to get to, and hopefully I'll be able to stay in here, Catherine. Yes, we are trying to keep the website platform updated. And so I had to watch a video and do some advanced setting things, which was really confusing to me. If it sounds confusing to you, it's confusing to me too. So if you're having problems getting on the website right now, I apologize, and I am working on that. I am keeping all of our social media and the website up to date with all the election info. So all the early voting, which starts Saturday and Sunday only at the courthouse from 12 to 5, and then all next week from 7 to 7 at various locations, which can be found on our website and the county website and the city website and all the social media. And then election day is the 15th, 7 to 7 at even more places around the city. Although really it only involves the city and not the county. It only involves the mayoral race and the city council district 1 and 4. So trying to keep all that up to date. My daughter made us a bunch of cute things before she moved. So I've been using those on, realize we have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I think that was in our newsletter last week. We have over 1,000 users, followers on Facebook, and only like 100 on the other two, not as many on the other two.
Wow.
So, but we do have them, and I try to keep them all updated, mostly Facebook, but the other two a little bit too. We have webinars coming up this week, as Julie mentioned, on working on redistricting and also working with the state legislature. So I'll be attending those and trying to keep up with that stuff and posting whatever we need to from there. I had talked last time a bit about media consumption and how people need to learn how to consume media correctly. And so I found a couple of resources and articles, and a great place that actually provides resources for teachers to work with kids in the classroom so they learn how to distinguish between good sites and bad sites and good information and bad information. So I'm putting some of that stuff together slowly, and I'll share more of it when I get more. In the meantime, I'm going to share a few things with you guys that you can be aware of as individual consumers of social media and news. For anybody who uses Facebook, you get fake friend requests all the time. Now, you may think they are friend requests, but I am telling you that there are very, very many. I get sometimes 4 or 5 a day of fake friend requests. So when you go to see if you have a friend request on Facebook, you need to look at it and you need to make sure if everything they've posted has just been in the last 2 days and there's no posts on there and nothing is locally, is local, and they don't have any friends in common with you, the chances are they are not real. And you can just delete that and not accept them. I can't tell you how many times I look at one and see that I have 2 friends in common, and I know they're fake, and I go look at the poor people who have accepted them, and I wonder how many fake friends they have now. So that is a real thing, because fake news is out there, and it comes from these troll accounts, but they need you to help share it. So if we don't accept fake friends, then it helps stop the spread of fake news. So that's one thing. The other thing is fake news on social media. Right now, there is a lot of garbage on social media, even locally, about that whole FBI investigation. And I've had very smart friends text me and call me and ask me about stuff they've seen on social media. Oh my God, is Joe McComb involved in some shady dealing with the FBI? And no, he is not. That is just one of those things where they're trying to combine all these things and somebody wrote it and people are believing it. So we need to think before we link. Think and research things, or ask somebody that you trust before you share fake information. I understand there was even an ad on the news last night by one of the candidates, kind of trashing one of the other candidates. And I've had a lot of people asking me about that too. And I think we really, again, you just need to make sure your sources are valid before you share anything or act on it. So that's all I have to say for now. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm so glad you're doing this, because think before you link should be a new refrain.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I shared a lot of things from the U.S. government CISA account, the Cybersecurity Information Security, whatever they're called. And that was run by a Trump appointee. That whole department was created by him, and he appointed the guy who ran it, who was Chris Krebs, who he just recently fired. And he fired him because he actually put a lot of information about thinking before you link on their whole website was about cybersecurity and about, being careful with propaganda and fake news. So he was fired basically for telling us this information that I've been sharing. So.
Wow.
Yeah. You can all interpret this a different way, maybe. But anyway, thank you so much for all your work and for your diligence and for your generosity in sharing all that you're learning. Okay, Catherine, you're on.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I'm just going to put up a slide, share a slide. This is going to be fairly short and sweet, but I think it's, come on, that's not it. This is what I want to see. Do y'all see that? Are you seeing it? Vote 411?
Mm-mm.
No. Just want to, let's see this. Share. Okay, now? It should
Yep. Yes.
Okay, all right, excellent. Okay, just this week, I received an update from Megan Brown from Vote 411 from LWV-CC. And this was a summary of this election cycle, and it's really very, very exciting, and I wanted to share that with you. So I'll just get right down to it. There were, from January the 1st through November the 3rd, there were 6.7 million sessions, including voters' guides, on Vote 411. And that's just absolutely fantastic. That is up, not surprisingly, up, considerably over the last, particularly presidential election cycle. So there was it was a 141% increase over the 2016 cycle and a 20% increase over the 2018 cycle. Again, 2018 was a midterm, wasn't a presidential election year, that cycle, but 2016 was. The Vote 411, this is just astounding that they had detailed candidate info from 41,000 plus candidates in 22,000 races. So that's what's going on. We're a small part of that, but it's really amazing to know how much this has grown and how important it is. There were more than 20,000 more candidates than in 2018, the midterms, and 28,000 more than the last presidential race in 2016. She also sent the analytics by state and by county, and so I wanted to share those with you. For Corpus Christi, We had a 302% increase in users of Vote 411 over September. This is in September the 18th in 2018. We had a 125% increase in users over October in 2018. So our traffic is really, really good. There were, in Corpus Christi, there were 4,547 users, and 4,392 were new users that had not logged on before. And between January 1 or November 3rd of this year, there were over 6,600 sessions. What's also really interesting, particularly for the two things in terms of September and October, the last 2 months before the election month of November, our bounce rate, and if you're not familiar with what a bounce rate is, that's how they do that is that it's single page sessions divided by all the sessions. So essentially it's what percent of the users of your site viewed only a single page and only triggered the server once. Now you really don't want them to do just one page, but what's interesting about our analytics for that is they say that a really good, a very healthy bounce rate is around 30%. And that means that typically that your site is very user friendly. So for us, for Corpus Christi in September, our bounce rate was 39%. In October, it was 32%. So we're there. We don't want it to get any higher. That, getting higher is not a good thing in this example. But I think we did very, very well and appreciate getting that information. And also, our bounce rate for January the 1st through November the 3rd of 2020, it was 35%. So again, we're doing some things right, thank goodness, in terms of getting out that information. So by and large, the other interesting thing is that we really see the early voting kicking in September and the number of users. In September of 2020, there were 388 users. In October, there's over 2,600. So you're seeing that spike, I think, in people tuning into Vote 411 for early voting. So again, I think that's a good thing. So I'm going to stop the share right now, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions?
Great question. I have a question, Catherine. Have you taken it down? Has it?
All of the candidates and races have been archived except for the ones in the runoff.
Okay. Because I've gotten some inquiries about that. So
the other thing I do want to tell you is that we recently, just this week, there was a survey for the 2020 cycle from Megan at Vote 411. And so one of the things they were asking, some of the things they were asking were about, good practices that we saw, things that were good, things that were bad. But the other thing is, the reason for that is that they're revamping that platform. And so what we see next time around will be different. And I did volunteer say that I would like to be a part of that revamping effort. And so I'll keep you posted on what we find out, when I find out for what comes next in Vote 411. I'm really excited about it and glad to have that opportunity.
Awesome. I have still been promoting 411 because Catherine pointed out that those candidates were still left in there. So I've been promoting that heavily in all of our posts just so people know they can still go see the mayoral and district candidates in there.
Exactly. The other thing I wanted to share with you, and again, this I only became aware of this late, is that now there is a vote411.org/ES. It is in Spanish. And so I think we need to make the effort to go back to getting our input in Spanish. So that we can, that when we make postings for our candidates there, that their responses are in Spanish. I think that would be a very good thing. Any other questions? I say, do you want me to answer that, Peggy?
Yeah, what do you think, Catherine?
I think so. One of the things that we haven't talked about is how many of the printed guides were not picked up. Paula, you may want to chime in on this too.
I know that Chris called a number of places, and I need to touch base with her. But numbers were really down. And so a lot of the places were happy to hear that they could recycle the guides they had. A couple of places where I did go to drop off the state guides at the public libraries, there was the Garcia Library asked for more guides. So obviously they were doing a very good job of handing them out. Other places, not so much. So I think it just kind of depended on how involved, because the libraries they were handing them out when people came to pick up books. And so I think it just depended on how enthused the library staff was in actually getting those out the door, or for that matter, how much foot traffic they particularly had. So yeah. So I'll get back to you on that when I firm that up.
Peggy, there have been several leagues, some even in Texas, that have done away with the printed guide and they're only doing the virtual. It's more and more common.
It's printed. It's been our biggest expense, really,
and when you think of it from a green perspective, also, that's a whole lot of trees being cut down for something that gets used. It's kind of a single-use thing. So yeah, going virtual is, and heck, if Sandra Heatherly can support moving to online,
I do support it.
Absolutely. So you're the poster child for people moving to the online platform.
Even if we kept the PDF, even if you kept the PDF version and put that online, if people don't want to go on Vote 411 because that's a little harder to navigate, but you don't actually print the PDF, you still have it that way.
So let me share one thing else in this wrap-up from LWV-US, Vote 411, is that they figured that it only costs, in terms of comparison, it only costs, let me make sure I get this right, it really only costs 1 cent per user in the Vote 411 Voter's Guide.
That's terrific.
That's discounting. That's discounting your labor. It should come out to more because there's considerable labor involved.
Well, yeah, there it is, and you would know, Sandra. Well,
and
I would like to hear. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as I mentioned earlier, we paid $1,350 for those this year, and I know I had close to 300 left, and I don't know how many others had left. And a lot of the ones that we handed out did not get distributed from the source because they didn't have the volume of people. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Interestingly enough, several of the coffee shops managed to go through there. So I guess it just depended on where people were hanging out. They were not going to libraries. They were not going to many businesses, but yeah, they were going to coffee shops.
Okay, Catherine, I wanted to ask about this. We hear about the literacy rate being lower here, and we talk about not everybody has a computer, not everybody is up technologically. So if we did not have any paper information, any voter guides in paper form, would we be disenfranchising that whole set of our people in our area who are not up to date technologically, who don't have the connections to be using those resources available? Is there a portion of the community we can serve most effectively with paper?
I think that's a good question. And I think I don't have a direct answer for you on that. I think if we were to contemplate that and removing that, I think we would need to consult with the other leagues in Texas about how they address that issue. And I think also in the next, in 2012 is the next cycle. It's not a presidential, but it's definitely the leadership of Texas is, will be up. So it may be that we are able to collect more data, get back, recollect a printed guide if we do, and kind of go from there. How many are actually being distributed? I mean, right now, we really don't know for sure. And
right.
So if it's just a little bit of homework and research, I think we could come to better conclusions.
Well, would you please follow up on that? Maybe as you're having conversations with other people in the state, how they're dealing with lower level readers, or some of those who are considered literacy diminished.
Well, I think part of the thing that we can also point to is, not our libraries will not be closed forever, and people could get access on library computers, and then I believe those might actually have the capability to read websites and things. So there may be some of that available. So it actually, if people have a lower literacy rate or lower reading rate, that may actually be more beneficial to them.
I also will say this, it's with the revamp of the Vote for One platform, I suspect that there's going to be more emphasis on electronic delivery, and more importantly, more in terms of things like phones, using phones, because so many people don't even use a computer anymore, they use their phones. And so it's very easy, it's much easier these days to get a phone as opposed to a computer. And so I'm thinking that is probably a direction they're looking at. I'll know more, if I'm selected to be on that revamping committee.
Well, Catherine, thank you for all you've been doing, and thank you for listening and taking these issues to talk to the other people in this stage you'll be working with, and so forth. So thanks again very much. Any last remarks? Okay, who's following Catherine then?
Chris is Liz Riggle. Chris Davis is next. I mean, Chris
She's
Chris
no
is
longer
next.
with us, I think.
Okay. But she did enter something in chat. Sylvia, did you see that? She mentioned that the two of you had been working together, and she left an extensive chat message. And
I haven't looked at chat at all. I've just been looking at you all and trying to listen to you face to face. So
how about if I read what she wrote?
That would be great.
Okay. She apologized for exiting the meeting. And all she was going to say is that Sylvia Whitworth and she have met and are reviewing the 2016 job descriptions of all the board members, and will be tweaking those and adding new suggested responsibilities in the next few weeks. Our goal will be to have each officer review his or her suggested job description and get information. Oh dear, what did I do? I lost it. Okay, and let's see, nominate and get information to the nominating committee to use in the early spring when they're recruiting new officers.
Okay.
Sylvia, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes. I just wanted to say that we did meet once and went through a lot of the job descriptions. And I want to say that Kathy Oler had already gone through them and made some suggestions. So we thank you, Kathy Oler, for doing what you did too.
Okay, so can you give a report on that then to Liz so she can include it in the minutes so everybody on the board knows about this?
Okay, just what Chris wrote on the chat?
Well, what all three of you are doing together.
Okay, I'll
track of what progress we're making and what we need to be doing to support you and your suggestions. So if we could have it in print to look at again and consider on a regular basis, that would be a great help to the board.
Okay, I'll send something to Liz.
All right.
Sylvia, it's Liz. Sylvia, it can just be a brief summation or just what Anel read of Chris's statement is fine.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just what Anel read was perfect. So that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't want to lose any of your good ideas on this. So, you know, please communicate in writing so we can re-register it. Okay, that's great. Now, who else has something to share with us today? Anyone? All right, then let me come back to the water people. We had a large number of the committee with us today. I'm seeing only 6 pictures at the lead of, or 7 pictures of people still here. I'm not sure if that's right, but well, Sally, do you want to restate the names of your committee members who are here today? Well, Ron was here.
I saw Ron, I saw Teresa Klein, Jim Klein.
Yes.
Judy Tilge.
Yes. Linda Snyder. Ruth Falk.
Yes, Ruth was here.
So I want you to all be aware that we had at least 6 or maybe 7 with Sally here today. They are all very interested in what the league is doing as a whole, and they're also just highly interested in being able to answer your questions. If you see objections, if you have suggestions, they want to hear from you. And so they were all here today they made a special point to be at the board meeting so they could hear what you had to say and what your questions are. Anything else, Sally?
I reiterate, please either send me an email or give me a ring on the phone if you want to join us for a PowerPoint rehearsal, because we really want your feedback. What we got from you today was just great. But we'll make a special effort to schedule a rehearsal around your availability, even if there's only one of you, because we've got to do it anyway. So let us hear from you. We're eager to share, and we'll make not only the workshops available at others' convenience, but we'll also schedule some of our rehearsals and rundowns so that you can join us and give us the benefit of your input, because we need it. Thank you.
All right, and I want you all to know that Sally, in her work with the state offices of the League of Women Voters, has made many new connections and has heard about many studies going on across the country. So we are in, I sort of say, high cotton in terms of our objectives and work to benefit the people of the country. So I wanted to be sure that everyone is not seeing this as problematical or something we've been working on for a long time and we need to release, because it's not time to release it. We're getting action across the country, and we want to be sure we do it right. We want to be sure all of your voices are heard and your perspectives are considered as well. So please don't just push it under the rug. you're all doing wonderful things and working with parts of the community nobody else in the league is working with. You're all just dynamically diverse and so intelligent. It is such a treat for all of us to be able to work with all of the rest of us, because everyone brings such gifts and energy and understanding and compassion to your membership and your work. So thank you all for that. Now, is there anything else? Anyone else have a question or a comment before we close down for today? Is there a motion to adjourn? A motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? We stand.
I'll second.
Thank you. We stand adjourned. And have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Much happiness and wonderful
Merry
health.
Christmas, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
And Ron was here today. I need to be sure we include him in our list. Yeah, that was great. Okay, goodbye. Debbie, do you want to come tune me out? And then Nell can tune me out here as well. Right?
Yeah, once I end the meeting,
Yes. honey.
we'll stop recording.